For many moons now, I've preached about the skill-building benefits of incorporating speed bursts into your practice sessions. Here recently, over on my Patreon page, my man Seth put in a request for one based around legato, so I came up with this awesome pattern that you can use to incorporate some more of those hammer-ons and pull-offs into your speed burst workouts. But it also came with some interesting perks, especially if you alternate pick your way through it or use a combination of picking and legato. Here's how the pattern goes. Ahoy there, kids. It's your Speed Burst buddy, Uncle Ben. I love practicing with little sprints of speed rather than the typical all-out marathon of 16th notes that you see in a lot of exercises. Every time you downshift to a slower subdivision, it's a great time to reflect on any tension that you built up when you were playing fast, and it's an excellent way to gain more rhythmic command if you're switching between two different subdivisions. Here on my channel, I have a ton of different speed burst workouts that you should be checking out if you want to improve your speed and become a more better shredder, but most of them have focused on alternate picking. Today's workout centers on legato, but you can also use it with alternate picking and pick up some amazing chops along the way. We'll talk about the legato approach first, then cover all the picking strategies later on. This here vid's got enough guitar Illuminati secrets in it to turn you into the next Shreddy Krueger, but if you want to get even more out of it, I advise you check out my Patreon page over at patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. Sign up today even for just $1 a month. That's going to get you access to the downloadable tabs, guitar profiles, and practice tracks I made to go along with this lesson, as well as access to hundreds of exclusive posts and a community of awesome people just like yourself. So don't delay, sign up today over at patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars, and I'll see you there. Gear-wise, I'm going to be playing my amazing Jackson American Series Virtuoso here. Love this guitar, and I'm playing through the Friedman Jake E. Lee 50. Now, before we get into it, let's hear that again at stepdad speed. Yeah, that's actually one of those weird exercises that's way harder to play slow than it is fast. So be sure to use those practice tracks I'm putting up over on Patreon and play this at a variety of different speeds, even the really slow ones. Even if they seem like they're beneath you and pokey or whatever, you'll be shocked to see how hard it is to maintain rhythmic control when you put that fretting hand in the driver's seat. This is based around a 3-note per string B major scale. The sequence that we're going to use will take us through that scale pattern 2 strings at a time. E and A and D, D and G, and so on. The pattern is going to start off here with 8th notes, and what we're going to do is to walk up 2 strings worth of notes, and then all the way back except for the very last note. Should sound like this. And again, that's going to be 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and. Now right here, this is what we're going to play. You can hear how I shifted to a triplet subdivision, triplet, 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 and I walked all the way up both strings, and then left off at the highest note on the lower string. So altogether, the sequence will sound like this. You'll notice how I'm only using one pick stroke per string just to get it moving, and then letting the left hand take over. After you play through that sequence, play the same idea but using the notes on the A and D strings. D and G. G to B. And then B and high E. Next is going to be the same idea but descending instead. So we're going to be walking down E and B, B and G, G and D, and so on. Start off with the same idea with the eighth notes here. We're going to walk all the way down two strings, all the way back up, except for the last note. It's going to sound like this. You can hear how I left the last note off right there. And then we're going to descend down using the triplets, playing down the E, down and up the B, and then just the first note here on the high E string. So all together it's going to sound like this. I'm kind of using that highest note there to sort of trigger my brain into changing into those triplets. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and triplet, triplet, triplet. Kind of using this guy is kind of my anchor finger on each one of these patterns. Now we're going to go to the B and G. And again, there's that little finger being my guide for when it's time to blast off into triplet zone. G and D. D and A. And then A to E. Even if you're like an alternate picking only guy that never really uses hammer-ons and pull-offs, this is great to practice because it teaches your left hand to be just as in the groove as your right hand. Because ultimately, if your left hand sense of rhythm sucks, it doesn't matter how good your picking technique is. If that left hand isn't just as groovy and on top of the beat as your right hand, you'll never get them in sync and it'll always sound super sloppy. As you go through this, you're trying to maintain a consistency of volume from note to note. You don't want some notes really jumping out at you, like the pick stroke note, and then the hammer-ons sound really soft like that. You don't want that. You want a really even tone. Guys like Tom Quayle and Allan Holdsworth are the undisputed heavyweight champs of this technique. Be sure to watch as many of Tom Quayle's tutorials as you can if you really want to master your legato stuff. That guy is out of this world. Probably the best legato player we've ever had. And a hell of a nice guy too. Love Tom. But try to maintain a consistent volume here, and you'll notice a lot of guys that do tons of hammer-on playing, they'll use their middle finger and hybrid pick their way through stuff like this. It's a little bit softer tone. You can do a pretty soft downstroke there with the pick, and then about the same sort of volume by doing technically an upstroke with your middle finger there. Keeps the volume nice and even, and the great thing about playing it that way too is it keeps your right hand more still. The right hand is just moving less than it would be if you were using a downstroke and upstroke to navigate through that, which means your right hand is going to generate less noise, you know, rather than moving up and down the strings like that. It's just going to be a little bit calmer and quieter and keep the noise down. To keep the noise down on the left-hand side of things, be sure to use the Ed Gein Special, the skin capo, and lightly dampen out the strings back here with the back side of the first finger. You'll notice as I play through this, my first finger never arches, you know? Like that's one of the first things that we learn to do on guitar is play with your fingers arched up. We learn that whenever we get our chord grips and stuff down. And that's usually good advice, but a lot of times whenever you're playing scalar lines and especially hammer-ons and pull-offs, it's great to play more on the fingerprint area of the first finger because that means the underside of that finger can act as just, yeah, a skin capo to keep those strings dampened out and keep them from ringing. Because every time you hammer on, there's a chance it's going to excite those strings and make them vibrate and generate some noise. So this will help keep everything sounding a lot more cleaner. Now let's talk about the picking side of this, because there's some unusual benefits that you get from practicing this pattern with alternate picking as opposed to the legato approach. You can also combine them and get some cool sounds out of it too if you want to incorporate this into your soloing or something. But check this out. Because of the combination of eighth notes and triplets, we end up with a really unusual 19-note sequence. Check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 every time that we play through that lick. Alternate pick that with me here. You might have already noticed something strange happening in the picking. The odd number of notes means that every other time that we play the sequence, the picking is going to be reversed. So in other words, you're going to have one version that starts on a downstroke that ended on a downstroke too. That means the next sequence is going to start off on an upstroke and end on an upstroke. This is great because a lot of picking exercises out there only focus on one type of string change, changing off of a downstroke, changing off of an upstroke, but this will involve a big combination of the two. So if you practice this with your alternate picking, it's going to turn you into a beast of an alternate player. It's also just a little bit unusual to be starting off a phrase of eighth notes with an upstroke. That's just not something that you see all the time. But obviously, depending on your rhythmic groupings that you're using, sometimes you're just gonna have to. If you're combining the even numbered eighth notes with the odd numbered triplets, it's gonna happen. I know a lot of people are always like, you should always be starting off on the downbeat with a downstroke at all times. And most of the time we do. But if you're playing around with odd note groupings like we're doing today, it just won't happen. So by practicing this with alternate picking, you're just going to become a more versatile picker, where it won't matter if you're starting off on a downstroke or an upstroke, or changing strings off of a down or changing strings off of an up. You're going to be able to do it all, and that's kind of the goal, right? That right there was a combination of alternate picking my way through the eighths and then going to legato whenever it was triplet time. This is a great way to practice, for one, because that combination of picking and legato just sounds dope whenever we use it in our soloing anyway, so you might as well practice it. But it's also a great way to pass the rhythmic baton between the two hands. Whenever you're doing the alternate picking part, you'll really feel the groove in the right hand, and then whenever it's time to go to triplet mode, you pass the baton over here to the left hand and let it groove for a little while. It's really a great way to get rhythmic control over both hands. Now, you could also flip this and do legato on the eights, and alternate picking on the triplets. That would look something like this. I really recommend practicing this with all those different approaches. Legato only, alternate only, hammer-ons, then picking, picking, then hammer-ons. If you do all that stuff, I guarantee you're going to become a more better shredder in no time. Especially if you use the guitar profiles, practice tracks, and so many other amazing assets that are available over on the Patreon page. Patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. The greatest place on the internet. People are saying it. I'm repeating it. You're hearing it. I'm saying it. You're signing up today. I'll see you there. Wasn't it the great Ray Parker himself who said, "Burstin' makes me feel good"? Pretty sure he said that. If not, I said it, and it's true. Speed bursts are the way, the truth, and the light of shred-eye knightdom, so I advise you guys incorporate these into your practice sessions today. Thanks so much for watching the video. Be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold, and join up over on that Patreon page for access to all kinds of amazing goodies, bonus videos, and so much more. Well guys, it's been fun as always, but it's about dinner time. I got a bowl of pho screaming my name. I recommend you guys get away from the computer machine, grab your axes, and get to mashing. Less clicking, more picking.